everybody, to Playback. This is the show where two music producers take turns choosing albums to discuss. And this week is a very special one because we're kicking off our first annual Reggae Summer.
Yes.
So for starting right now, and then for the next 5 episodes after this, we're just going to do 6 classic, amazing reggae albums in a row, all summer long. And so for our very first one, Nate, you had the honor of choosing first.
Yes, I did.
And Nate, I think wisely decided to start us off right in the middle, right in the thick of things.
Yes,
with Bob Marley, and the album that you chose for Bob Marley is Exodus.
Yes,
and we have with us a guest.
Yes,
to help us unpack and unravel. We have the great Brian Wallace, aka Dub Robot.
Welcome to the show.
Robot.
Yes. And longtime listeners of the show will know the background that Nate and I have, and the special place in our lives that Brian holds. But those of you who don't know or don't remember, long story short, Brian was our music teacher. He's the one who taught us about Jamaican music, reggae, and all that stuff, which we, to this day, still play, still do, is still like central to our lives, central to our musical lives, and what even has us be the kinds of people who would want to do something like Reggae Summer in the first place.
Right. So, and if you're familiar with our music, I mean, Brian at this point has been playing sax and various other things on our records for like 10 years now. So there's like 1 million black market albums and songs and things that Brian is like all over. So he is in my, and I know we've never really talked about it, but Brian is in black market dub. He is one of our many members.
From the Shadow.
It's official.
Yeah, he is
the
Shadow. The Shadow.
Banging
the
the
Shadow
gavel.
member, yes.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with our Christmas record, that is like the Brian show. It is all sax, all Brian. Yep. It is awesome.
That main saxophone part that's all over every track, that's him.
Yes. Yeah, and Brian also has a very long history in a million different ska, reggae, rocksteady, dub projects, spanning, like 30 plus years now, Brian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brian, thanks for being on the show.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Yes,
with your community that you've built. I'm so proud of you guys.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Thanks,
thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today, for this to start this new Reggae Summer series off, my thinking was like, okay, maybe some people might think it's like a little like on the nose or basic or this or that to start off with a Bob Marley album. And there's I think all three of us, we could probably pick 100 more other kind of nerdier, deeper kind of picks. But for me, I think 99% of people, for better or worse, when they think of reggae, they think of Bob Marley. Bob Marley and reggae are synonymous. They are basically one and the same. And it is most people's way in to reggae music. So ergo, Exodus being, in my opinion, I think is his best album, like just other than like Legend, which is his greatest hits, which I think is probably the one that is probably his most popular album. But I didn't want to pick a greatest hits for this. For me, Exodus is my favorite of his main like studio albums that he put out in the 70s. And if Marley is the best way into reggae, and this is his best album, then in my opinion, this is the best. This is the best like first step into reggae you can take if you've never heard it before. But the funny thing about that is, and maybe we'll talk about it once we get more into it, is that like he kind of like eschews like the traditional reggae sound on this record. Ironically, it's not like the most traditional approach to reggae music. It is. He recorded this in the UK, and it is kind of like you can kind of tell.
I don't think that they changed the sound to the point of like sacrilege or like that it's not reggae anymore. Not at all. But they're dipping their toe intentionally into this more international sound that the rest of the artists back in Jamaica weren't doing.
Like it's really subtle. You know, it's not like super. Yeah. It's not like super overt. Like oh my gosh, it sounds like, you know, a bunch of like English people playing on this album or something like that. But it's kind of hard for me to put my finger on it. But it is like his style of reggae is like distinct to him, in my opinion.
I think that's one of the things that makes him singular. Like how you said, he's synonymous with reggae.
Yeah,
and you know, those who know will already know, and those who don't know will find out as we progress through this Reggae Summer, which is that Jamaica at that time was full of incredible singers and artists and songwriters and stars, and you know, Bob Marley was one person who came out of an entire community of other you know, great performers and singers. However, undeniable, he has like 100 times the profile and the prominence of number two. It's not a mistake. It wasn't random which one of these singers is going to be the one to blow up. I don't think.
Totally.
You know, I think that there is a reason why it was him out of all of them.
Yeah, and he had like a message and like a sensibility to him in his sensibility to his music that was really accessible and something that like didn't like freak people out. Like I think like Peter Tosh probably really like freaked people out at the time because he was so like militant about his message. I almost like kind of compare them to like within the same band. It was like you had like an MLK and like a Malcolm X like within the same band.
Right. Yeah.
What was your guys' like impression listening to this time? I haven't listened to this in like a long time, to be honest.
The first time I heard this record was on the beach in Oxnard. My mom grew up in Guyana, and her time period was Calypso, and she had a lot of Calypso records, and so we would go to the beach. They were both teachers, and one of the teachers that they taught with had this really cool beach house that we would go and hang out. Just basically whenever there was like a party, we'd go, and they were like they're really into like 70s rock and like you know, that kind of like it's not like hippie music, but you know, like there was like the Grateful Dead, but there was also a lot of reggae.
Nice.
At this, you know, it's like a beach, you know, the Southern California beach music. But again, this was when I was a very young kid. So like 4, 5, 6, like in there checking this stuff out. And there was a stereo downstairs, and we could go and play music. There's music upstairs that they were like dancing to, and then there was like the TV and then more music downstairs.
Mm.
And we could put on whatever we wanted. And so I remember Exodus from that time period. I also was in England in 77, 78, because my grandparents lived there. And so I remember that time period.
That was like right when this came out.
Yeah, it was when they recorded it. I'm not sure when it came out. But I have some memories of Rastas there, and seeing the whole Margaret Thatcher, you know, kind of like thing happening, that the movement towards, you know, this something to really rebel against, you know, and skinheads and rude boys and all the just the vibe there, because we were in like full, you know, we were in a suburb of England, or a suburb of London, and we would walk from my grandma's house down the street past the shops and then get on the train and go into London every day.
Yeah, so you're like in the thick of it, in one of the major hubs of the world where it was really blowing up for the very first time.
Well, I remember it was like 77, 78, there was like the Queen's like Jubilee thing that happened. It was like, that was a really cool summer. I can't remember what actual year it was, but it was in there somewhere. And they had like concerts in the park that we would go to. There was like reggae playing. There was a lot of blues, like super into it. And like, not like Eric Clapton blues, like actual blues.
Real, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like they were Americans there performing.
They would like a lot of like the like kind of classic Delta bluesman type guys that would actually, there was like a revival in the 70s, like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf,
Pine Top Perkins,
exactly, guys like that. They would go over to Europe and they would make big money. During that time,
and America didn't care.
Yeah, America didn't care. Yeah, we
at all.
Usually don't for some reason care about our own exports all that much.
And interestingly, now if you look back, Jamaica doesn't care. Like,
about
like
reggae.
Currently, they don't care about reggae. Like if try to find a young person in Jamaica who's like, I'm really thinking about being a reggae guitarist. Like maybe there's like 4 people in the whole country. I don't know.
This is oldies for them.
It's always kind of bummed me out that like, it seems pretty evident that like Jamaica, for whatever reason, like they don't care about the reggae as an art form as much
there's
anymore.
Reasons.
Is it just because like, do they just see it as like old people music at this point or something?
Yeah, it's partially that. It's partially
it's like oldies to them.
It's also just the painfulness of it, of the whole story.
Right.
There's some people that are just like, this is a painful story.
Yeah.
I'm into trap music. I want to, like I want to move on. Like it feels more liberating to actually just, let's create something new rather than dwell on this. Like, we were a colony and then this stuff happened and this happened. And then,
So, the homogeneity of the music industry in Jamaica is something that has always been really interesting to me as I've learned about it. Like, for example, when Jamaica got its independence from Britain in 1962, right? Shortly thereafter came a style of music called ska, right? And like, what seems to me, I could be wrong, but what it seems like to me is how much of the recording studios, of the producers, of the sound systems, how much of the music industry in Jamaica was making ska. It's like 100%.
Yeah.
And then from like 66, 67, 68, now the new sound is rock steady. Mm-hmm. So now during that period of time, how many people are playing ska? 0.
Yeah,
how many people are playing rock steady? All of them.
100%.
100% of them. Then 69, reggae becomes a thing, and that's going through. Then in the mid 70s, it gets to this roots style, this and all that into the early 80s. How many people are playing rock steady? 0.
Yeah.
How many people are playing reggae and roots? All of them.
Yeah.
So like that's always been really interesting to me because it's how different is that from America?
Yeah.
Where we grew up, right? Where there's constantly like 20 different industries of music constantly with their own progressions and their own offshoots. There's like 100 different communities and pockets of people making records here and there, and sometimes related to each other, sometimes in complete isolation from each other, and all this
Jamaica is like so small. Jamaica's so tiny, compared to America. Like your average like scene in America, like a New York scene or a San Francisco scene from the same time period. It's like the same amount of people in that scene just in New York you could put the entire Jamaican reggae scene and it would fit like in New York. You know what I mean?
But even
like,
in New York, okay, think about the late 70s in New York. Mm-hmm. How many different styles of music were happening there? You know what I'm saying?
Like
Hip hop was happening, punk was happening, all this stuff. in this one city, right?
That's true.
So that's like what I was used to growing up in America, and so it's really interesting to see that sort of phenomenon of it's not really like that in Jamaica, and so that continued to progress.
Yeah.
It didn't stop with reggae. It didn't stop with roots, and I sort of I'm sure this is an oversimplification, but how come nobody plays it? How come nobody listens to it? Or not nobody listens to it, but how come nobody makes that? Because they just moved on to the next. Next it was dancehall, then it was the thing after that, then it was the thing after that, and at this point we're decades and decades down the line, and there's still, right now they're making what they're making now. They're interested in what they're interested in now. But I'm wondering if that tradition of the whole island, the whole city of Kingston, the whole country, like sort of being unified in what the new sound is, and like developing it, participating it, and pushing it forward, and being interested in what the next sound is, and they all move to the next thing together. I'm wondering if I'm thinking that they probably still do that, and at this point, reggae is just like 12 sounds back.
Yeah, seriously. It's just like nerds like us that just obsess over it.
Yeah, right.
50 years after the fact.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But then it's like, you could also look at it this way, like, a mother gives birth to a child, right?
Mhm.
The child grows, it changes. Like, that's a natural progression, and we shouldn't really be looking at the mother.
Right.
Or blaming the mother, like, make another one,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Jamaica had several really awesome kids.
Yeah.
That have all grown up.
Jamaica birthed reggae into the world, but now it's the world's. It's not. It doesn't only belong to Jamaica anymore. And now there's reggae all over the place being made. I mean, look at us. Me and Brandon make reggae. We have nothing to do with Jamaica.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't unring a bell, right?
And we make reggae, and we are amongst thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, in every country, literally every country in the world, that just like us, we've never been to Jamaica. We didn't grow up around Jamaican people, but what Bob Marley did was so effective that it got that music entrenched well enough in every corner of the world where stuff like us happens.
I mean, it's insane, like to the point where it's like Jamaica's like national export is a style of music. Like, styles of music. Yes. Yeah. Like that in itself is like a remarkable achievement, not only just of Bob Marley, although he was like, the leading the vanguard of that charge, certainly in the beginning, but just like what a cool, like remarkable achievement for any culture that like their greatest like national export is like is music. Like it's crazy. Like the United States, I guess, could say that, but it's like it's for us, it's more like general entertainment. It's not necessarily.
It's actually pornography.
Yeah. I mean,
that is actually one of our biggest exports.
Those exports of musical styles. It's just that we have other exports that are larger than that too.
Yeah.
But we also put out jazz and the blues and all that good stuff. But So Bob Marley was the one to accomplish that, and thereby ended up being, like I said, like a bazillion times more famous and prominent and well known than any other Jamaican singer. And it's interesting because I feel like
I don't even know who would you guys consider as like the second most famous Jamaican artist, like in the vein of Bob Marley. Would it be Jimmy Cliff or Peter Tosh? Like
I would probably say
Toots, yeah, maybe Toots. Yeah, you're right.
Toots Hibbert or Peter Tosh. Yeah.
But even so, like you could combine the fame of the next three, and it's like completely dwarfed by Bob Marley.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
he was able to interface with other parts of the industry, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about Chris Blackwell, and we talk about Island Records, and the machine that created U2. That it's a sort of icon machine that Bob Marley, I guess, was the first.
I could be wrong. My understanding was that Chris Blackwell already, was releasing music from Jamaica under that label prior.
Yeah, he was.
I don't know.
But this was like the first big like thing like that really stuck.
Right.
Yeah, because prior to that, it had really just been, and the whole reggae record industry essentially was you sell copies in Jamaica, and then you have the pipeline to the UK, and you sell a lot of records in England and in the UK, right? And sort of the rest of the world, other than the niche nerds, don't really care, right? Or at least it's not a notable or major seller in industry outside of that, right?
Well, yeah, and people, again, this is within a teenager's lifetime of like race records too, right? So people were the music industry is super racist.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at this time was,
if you didn't know that, I'm sorry to break it to you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're creating these boundaries, it literally in the record store bins, like this is white people music, this is black music.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have these ideas that are very much not racist. They're talking about it. But they're talking about it in a way that we would now consider not racist. Right. Like they're fighting back. The racist thing is really hard to wrap your brain around. It's really tough.
Yeah. So,
but here's the thing. Like I was talking to Linville about this the other day from the specials. Like how, like when I have a chance to really sit down and talk to people like Linville, I will ask this question.
That's Linville Golding, guitarist of the specials.
Yes.
Okay.
I constantly have this discussion with scientists, like racism. Let's just talk about it. Let's just get into it. Like what's going on? How did it affect your life? What do we do? What can I do? What do I tell other people? How do I create in this environment? Because we're stuck in this like feedback
Babylon
loop. Yeah, it's just like we're in it. So what do we do? And there's all kinds of different things. And then again, this is pertinent to this record. Bob's idea was Exodus, like get out.
Yeah, leave.
Just go somewhere else. Like let's go make Wakanda, right?
Yeah.
And his other idea, that is a very prolific idea, is just like let's just use love. Let's just say love will get us through it. Let's just be nice and kind to people. He doesn't talk about educating people. He just says that you don't need to like get into the roots of it. Just be a good person.
Yeah, just like cut the cycle off now. Like just stop it. Stop. Yeah.
As opposed to figuring out the problems that we are currently in and in the midst of, and analyzing them and figuring that, logicking ourselves through them, resolving them so that there's no racism. It's more like step back, step out of it. That path to unity and that path to happiness and a brotherhood of man, like Exodus, like essentially refuse to participate.
Yeah. Babylon's over there. We're over here. Moving
Yes.
on.
It's a very central sort of thing in the Rastafari worldview. So Bob Marley, not only the world's most famous reggae musician, also the world's most famous Rasta.
Mm-hmm.
The world's
For
most
a time.
famous.
So let's just get into the details of that.
Okay.
Not the whole time. Right? Wasn't a Rasta, then is a Rasta,
Right.
then is not a Rasta.
Right. And then he died.
Well, for sure he was. I was aware he wasn't a Rasta until his teenagers, until he was a teenager. When did he stop being a Rasta when he was still alive?
I've heard that like shortly before he died, he was no longer considered himself a Rasta and died not a Rastafarian
I did not know that.
any longer. I don't know how long. Like, do you know how long that period of time was, Brian? Because I always heard it was like kind of right before he died. But
right before he died, he sort of figured out. He figured out the history of Haile Selassie and was like, "Oh, we've been duped."
Oh wow!
I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
If you check out the Wikipedia of Haile Selassie, you will find out. So another thing, when you get into Jamaican music and Jamaican culture, it's really hard to get the straight story. You have to ask a lot over and over again, and you have to find the original source. The original source is gone.
Yeah.
The original source of what?
Of Bob's opinions and ideas,
I see.
unless
Right.
they're written down, is gone, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I always heard it was like either shortly before, but certainly like while he was on his deathbed, he was like not doing the Rasta thing anymore.
yeah, he
Wow.
decided to be a Christian and asked to be buried with his Gibson guitar and a Bible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy only because it really does kind of just, I guess, not go against, but it kind of bounces up against like the all the notions that I think we all kind of have about him, that, you know, that seems crazy that he would have, you know, that late in life, like made that heel turn. To me, I always thought it was like a rumor or just like wishful thinking by people who wanted to co-opt his name or
And that's
whatever.
the thing with all this stuff, like all these facts, they're sort of like, I always say they're like 95% true
Right.
because you kind of don't know. And then you could talk to somebody else and they'd be like, "Oh no, it's this way. I know because I was there. Oh no, it's this way." And you can get absolute 180-degree flops on this stuff.
Right.
So it's sort of like, well,
Yeah.
okay. And that's just part of island culture. It's there's confusing information.
Right.
Yeah.
In any island. You go to Hawaii, you go to Iceland,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's commonalities with. It's sort of like what is it? Like in oral history. Takes
Yes.
prominence over like a very precise and very careful written record that's taken super seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so certainly during this period of time when he made Exodus, he's singing Exodus, touring Exodus.
He is Rasta.
He is
Rasta,
Rasta
yes.
as Hail.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the biggest concepts in the Rasta worldview is this concept of Babylon.
Mm.
Babylon is the system. It's the way in which the world is set up, in which governments and people and nearly all people on the planet are participating in this grand system that inherently produces like comfort for some people off of the suffering and the backs of some other people, right?
Subjugation and
Exactly.
torment.
It churns up and eats certain people to, you know, put Ferraris and jacuzzis in front of other people.
Jewels in
And-
the crown.
Yes.
jewels in the crown. And so the Rasta stance. So first of all, Rasta is not like a monolith. There's no like central leadership. There's no central orthodoxy. There's no, but there's a lot of broad commonality between participants. But one of the things across the board is that anyone, like in a biblical way, anyone who participates in Babylon in any way will face the judgment and will face punishment in Armageddon, right? Anyone who benefits from it and participates in this process of Babylon, you are guilty. There's that famous line that's in a lot of songs. You know, not even the dog that piss against the wall of Babylon shall escape the judgment. Not even the dog that uses Babylon to relieve its bladder. That is too much participation. That's too much reliance. You're getting too much benefit from the existence of Babylon. And so
how did someone like Bob Marley square the circle of that and being like an international like superstar?
Super hard,
right?
From everything that I've ever heard him say, whenever anyone asked him a question related to that, and from other people talking about him and the kinds of things that he would say in private conversation, is he was single-minded, that he's on a mission to let everyone know, to educate, to point this out to as many people on the planet as he possibly can, let them know what the situation is, make them aware. Because the thing about Babylon is until it's pointed out to you, you don't even realize that there is a system.
Right.
You don't even realize that you are participating in something. You don't realize that you're benefiting from something. You don't realize that you're complicit in some indirect, or, you know, if you want to get super whatever about it, that you're participating in a direct way.
Yeah. You're like the frog in the pot of boiling water. Or maybe like soup stock, and you're like, wow, it tastes good in here.
Exactly, and so that's my understanding of Bob's rationale of being willing to participate with Chris Blackwell and participate with all these other people, because he's like, all right, at this fork in the path, which one is going to make my voice be heard by the most amount of ears? This one, okay, then we're going that way.
It's like a means to an end for like a greater good kind of thing.
And he would just fucking give all of his money away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people would just come up and be like, you know, I'm living here in Jamaica, and because of the machinations of Babylon, I'm fucking poor and I need this money to do this thing in my life. And he's like, how much do you need?
Wouldn't he also give away like songwriting credits and stuff too? I feel like I read that somewhere, where he would like some of his more like, you know, impoverished friends or whatever, he would like he would like on paper say that they helped him write such and such song or something, and then they would get royalties, and then they were set.
Yes,
you know,
and they still do.
So I mean, there's the concept of Babylon, which you're talking about, and Exodus, you know, away from it, getting away from it. But then there's also his literal Exodus that he had to go on after
assassination.
He was supposed to play I think it was like Smile for Jamaica concert or something like that. Smile Jamaica concert, and
like a free peace concert in Jamaica. It was intended to bring people together, because at the time, a lot of people who lived, you know, in the poorer areas of Kingston and I guess the rest of the country were, you know, being recruited and indoctrinated into following one of two camps who were really violent against each other.
Yes.
And so this concert, the intention was to, like, you know, sort of thwart that and have all these people be together in a positive way. And so, you know, that totally goes against what these gang leaders and these politicians who run each of those two gangs are trying to accomplish here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, somebody who had an interest in the concert not happening attempted to kill him, got some assassins to try to kill him. They failed.
like glanced his chest, bullet pierced his arm, and Rita Marley got shot as well. I think I read, which is crazy. But yeah, and then famously he like survived and still played the concert, which is like possibly the most rad thing ever.
Pretty punk rock. Yeah.
It is so punk rock. It is so sick.
Yeah.
For me, as like a young fan, finding out that fact about him is what completely galvanized me into being like a stalwart Bob head. Like I after that, I thought he was, not only just was he like really cool and like iconic, and you know, obviously his music was great, but like the fact that he like was willing to like put his life on the line like that is like remarkable and amazing, and I feel like something that, you know, kind of understandably so is like in short supply amongst a lot of like, you know, famous people or famous musicians. Like, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to do that. He got shot and then played the show anyway. He almost certainly was signing up to just like actually die, you know, during that concert.
Let's talk about that. The thing that I remind people a lot of, you know, we get reggae presented to us in festivals, on records, you know, these really nice sounding records, and it's sort of happy music and stuff. But the context of it is, this was done in the middle of gang warfare. You know, scientists will tell you these stories of him mixing with like guns pointed at him. You know, it just sort of like, oh yeah, and that happened on Thursday, and then and then we did this other thing. Like, it was sort of, this violence was sort of normalized because they were in the ghetto of like, it's a trench, like Trenchtown is a trench. That's where the sewer is. That's where you live when you don't have any money.
This scientist's mentor, King Tubby, was murdered.
Yeah, right. Murdered in his driveway.
Gangsters.
Yep.
Peter Tosh was murdered.
Santa, if you hang out with him, he's got a picture of his back on his phone, like his like X-ray, and you can see the bullet that was, you know, he took a bullet for Peter Tosh.
Whoa.
And he has it still in his body today.
The bullet?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Santa Davis, the drummer for Ziggy Marley's band, and I'll you know, the iconic
Played
Santa
in
Davis.
Peter Tosh's band back in the day.
The only time we hear stories like that or that make it into like our lexicon is what? It's like the Rolling Stones went down to Jamaica and they got robbed while they were in the studio, or Paul McCartney was like in Barbados and recording Band on the Run and he got robbed or whatever. And it's like
Elton John recorded in Jamaica and he fucking hated it and wrote Jamaica Jerk Off because he thought it sucked.
Yeah.
Like,
and yet, like these crazy stories that I'm sure, like you're saying, like Santa and scientists and all these guys probably have like a million stories like that. It's like those stories,
for days,
and they don't even like permeate. They don't even get through.
Let's segue that into something that is an important thing to talk about before we get into all the rest of Reggae Summer, which is just reggae music. What is it, and what is it important for people to understand about it? Because I feel like what you guys are touching on is, to me, the most important things to understand about reggae, and something that I feel is very little understood, which is that it is the music like of suffering and struggling people. It is not good vibes, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm mainly speaking about the way that it's understood in California, which is where I grew up, and it's very frustrating to me.
It's crazy,
and I'm sure that you guys encounter this all the time. Whenever you tell someone, particularly, you know, like an American person or a Western person, oh yeah, I play reggae, the sort of response that you get back to from that, oh my God, I love reggae. It's so relaxing, makes me feel so good, so positive,
functional.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's chill. Like, yeah, oh yeah, like whenever I'm stressed, I just need to feel good and stuff like that. And it always strikes me because it's like that's not how it feels to me, man.
It's like, meanwhile, every single song is about like 400 years of slavery and, you know, subjugation and like, yeah.
Exactly. Living in the bottom rung of the system that Babylon has put together. It's the cry for someone help from the people who are on the bottom of that system.
Yeah.
Like the shit on the heel of imperial colonialism and like capitalism is basically like how these people are treated. And that's
the Atlantic slave trade, slavery, people, not like with a capital S. Okay. It can't be looked away from. You know, if you're not willing to stare it in the face, you're not getting the full breadth of reggae and its context and its message, its function for the people who created it, you know, and why it matters so much for the people who made it and make it. So that's to me, it's the music of sufferers, as Rastas call them, and the second is that it is religious music. It's from the Bible.
Yeah.
With a capital B. And that's another thing, which is like, if you're not willing to like face that, then you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not just, and I think that there's something that like Western people do, and like, you know, one of the ways in which people get like colonially reduced and their culture like kind of taken away from them and held down is by, I think it's called reductionism, which is that I'm like the white colonial person, and I act like I understand what your message is, but I'm only acknowledging part of it. I'm only acknowledging the part that is
that I could like exploit.
I can make money on.
Yeah.
and only the part that is palatable in my cultural norms.
Yes.
Right. And the part that is about Black liberation and repatriation to Africa and all of that, I'm gonna leave that out. And I'm not going to reproduce that about it in my speaking about what your message is.
I will instead emphasize the like smoking giant amounts of weed part of the message.
And that your music is about good vibes and feeling good and positivity and being chill. And I'm going to use your music like the way that I use yoga and the way that I use meditation apps and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
That's reductionism. That is participating in Babylon. That is participating in the fucking subjugation of these people. And so those are the two things. Like it is about the suffering of descendants of slaves, and it is about the Bible, teachings from the Bible. And like I feel that a lot of, you know, people in our society really resist acknowledging that.
I think possibly like I don't even know if I would go so far as like, I don't know if you could like blame the audience for that. It's like an inevitable feature of like taking a radical message or a radical type of music and introducing it to widespread like rampant capitalism. You know what I mean? It's like they have to do that in order to exploit it. That's the only way they can do it. And so by the time it reaches your average, you know, reggae fan in Northern California or something, it's like, if that's all they know, that's what it is. You know, they have no idea, you know?
It's true. It's already passed through the filter of Babylon.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It is really, the way you present it is really insidious, and you're right. Like what is happening to it. But, and also like, I don't know if I would necessarily like, blame, people that make that kind of music either. It's just like an inevitable part of like enshittifying things that pass through like the American filter.
But the cool part about that I really enjoy when this gets unleashed on an audience, and I think probably Bob Marley enjoyed during his career of showing, because here's a guy really on the forefront of this whole edge, showing people for the first time, like showing up in Santa Barbara and like, hey, I'm gonna lay this on you. And like, if you watch those shows, like he's literally laying it on these people, and they're experiencing it for the first time. Those are those awesome like live recordings that we have and live films that we have of him, And I do love this. Still to this day, it happens at every single festival. There's somebody there who's never heard it before,
Right.
You know, and that connection, like when they sort of figure out, like they get hit by it, and they're just like, whoa, cool.
Yeah, it changes people's lives.
It really does.
It really does. Yeah. Yeah.
And because of all those things, because it is a strong religious message, even if you don't get it. It is a strong anti-fascist, anti-Babylon, anti-authoritarian message, anti-racist message.
Yeah.
And it is a strong message of love.
Yeah, and it does feel good. It does feel good.
It does feel good, yes.
Yep.
It does feel good to participate in that kind of expression.
And you are welcomed into it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this feels great. I can participate. People are open there. You can ask them, what is this? What's going on? You can dance to it very naturally.
Yes.
There's no like weird, one way to dance to it.
No, that's true.
Like we're doing the Charleston now, and you gotta do that, and it's really fast. Steps. Okay,
man. I remember when
that was how I knew I could not hang in Nashville. I was like, "There's steps to the dance." I'm good. I don't think so. I don't think I could live. I can't hang, dude. I can't stay in Nashville anymore.
I remember when I was a kid in Atascadero, one of my friend's moms said, when we were playing reggae in the garage, we were probably in like 9th grade or something like that. I remember she said, if you can't dance to reggae, you have no soul.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Just meaning like anyone can. And
it's true.
Since you have a soul, you can.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
What's Bob's great line? If you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing.
That, and the other crazy thing about him is like, it is religious music, like heavily so, right?
Yes.
And like, he does, like the way he carries himself, the way he presents himself, like the way you can see like that he believes everything he's saying. He does like feel like the closest like thing we had or have in the modern times to like an actual kind of prophet type person, prophetic type person. I'm not necessarily one that would like ascribe that to anybody, but like if there was ever anybody who walked the face of the earth that I would I would give them that kind of like saintly sort of like distinction on earth. He certainly had it.
Okay, he was a rock star essentially. He was a musician, right?
Yes.
But he's not held in the same if you got to put our famous people in our society into different categories, people don't put him in there with like Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger and David Bowie and Prince. No, they put him in with like Martin Luther King and like you know what I mean? And like the Dalai Lama and Nelson Mandela, they put him in that camp, you know? And I think there's really a reason for that and why not as many, other singers really end up there, because he went that level deeper in his like spiritual, just thoughtfulness, I guess you could say.
I think also it's because he wasn't like hedonistic in the same way that those artists were. Like those artists, it was like they were like the like you couldn't participate in Babylon more than they did. It's just like every night it's just like blow and orgies and like fast cars and like just money, fame, like just selfishness. Like, you know, as great as those artists are, you know, don't get me wrong, I fucking love David Bowie, but like, whereas Marley, yeah, he was like preaching love and selflessness and like these like very virtuistic things that like are not associated with rock stars.
I think it even goes deeper, because in order to end up in that camp, it takes more than just singing about love.
Yeah.
Because if you get a list of how many
like
singers
Paul McCartney's
sang about love,
yeah,
Paul McCartney's in that.
Yeah.
Right? Like prominently so. He sang about love all the time.
Right.
And advocated it all the time. But the thing that I feel that makes the other people in that camp, and including Bob, like, you know, Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and the others, is that they go beyond that first veil of what is obvious to all people about it. And there is something deeper and more insightful that they bring back to show to all of us. You know, like if you look at the lyrics across all the rest of the reggae industry that Bob came from, most of it is coming from that first impression of what's my response to my oppressor, what's my response to Babylon, to those who have perpetrated against me, is essentially fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? Is I'm going to respond to fire with fire. Right? And I'm going to and so much of the lyrics of the Rasta lyrics from this roots reggae era are indictments against the enemy, listing out the ways in which the enemy and their shortcomings, and then listing out me and my people, our strengths and what's great about us, right? You suck and I'm good. Okay? That's just the first level. That's not super insightful, and that's what made these other thinkers and these other spiritual leaders so prominent, is that they brought something else. So, for example, on Exodus, the song that like spoke to me the most in this listen through is the song Guiltiness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never, before this deep dive, that song never stood out to me. I never really listened to it.
There are a couple early on in this album that aren't like, you know, the 5 or 6 from this album that are on Legend that everybody knows, that are so good. What is it? Heathen is the other one too, but keep going on about Guiltiness. I'm sorry.
Bondi wall. Yeah. So Guiltiness, the lyrics in Guiltiness. Okay. This is a song where he's talking about the oppressor. He's talking about the quote unquote, the enemy, right? Those powerful people who make their daily activity and their daily living and benefiting themselves and their family by the stealing and the robbing and the taking from other people to benefit themselves. Okay.
How do we pollute the world more
Exactly.
today? Let's have a meeting about that. Can we melt the ice caps faster? Yeah.
Those people.
Yeah.
But what this song is he's sharing with all the rest of us. He's pointing out, he's like, listen, you guys, the very act of being like that is destroying these people's like spirit, their psyche, their quality of life. Like, these people are suffering because that is what they do with their time and with their life, right?
Yeah.
So these lyrics, pressed on their conscience, and they live their lives on false pretense every day, each and every day. These are the big fish who always try to eat down the small fish. I tell you what, they would do anything to materialize their every wish. Woe to the down-pressers, they'll eat the bread of sorrow. Woe to the down-pressers, they'll eat the bread of sad tomorrow.
He's like pointing out that they've like condemned themselves to like hell on earth because the way they choose to subjugate other people and live their lives in such like a materialistic and
Exactly.
horrible way.
And once you subjugate, you have to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
offering,
because if you stop, it's like your head's in the guillotine. Like as soon
and
as you
they
stop.
put their own head in the guillotine.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
he's like offering all, like we were talking about here, how he wants his voice and his message to reach as many people as he possibly can. That message that he's trying to reach people with here is like a message of actual like sympathy and maybe even empathy and like what's the word? Just like generosity for his enemy.
Yeah.
You know, like humanizing them. And I saw on YouTube the other day. Did you ever see those videos by the insider? It's like how crime really works, or they'll have like a former criminal like explaining the inner workings of like the mob or bank robbing or something like that. And one of them was a guy who used to be part of white power groups and like racist skinhead gangs, and was like a leader in like the American white power movement, and he's not anymore. And so he's on this video explaining what it's like and the inner workings of it, and just like telling all the secrets, you know, all the behind the scenes shit. And one of the things that he was talking about, he's like, it is so exhausting to hate every day, to live in that state of mind, because you constantly have to do these mental gymnastics to rationalize all the hypocritical things that you're doing, that you're saying, all the ways in which you're hurting people that you actually know in your heart like don't deserve it, and you have to rationalize that and keep yourself going one more day. He's like, it's like a fucking living hell, living in that space every day. And he's like, I couldn't even handle it anymore. After like a decade of doing this, like it would, you know what I mean? And he's like, and I felt it at the time. It's not like, oh, one day I realized, oh shit, what have I been doing? He's like, I knew it in my heart of hearts the entire time. And people do. And that's why they drink. That's why they use drugs. That's why they fight. That's why they end up in prison. That's why they die early. It's like they're you see what I'm, so Bob here is saying they are suffering. It's, I don't know. It's just like, I guess my point is it's a cut above, it's a cut deeper than other teachers, than other people who are commenting on the thing. And I feel that is what sets him apart and what makes Bob Bob.
Like for the longest time on this show, we used to like poke fun at albums that we didn't like. And it's so easy, right? To just like, to point and laugh or to kick something or to be shitty about something whereas like the actual harder work is to uplift something, uplift people, uplift others. Like it almost like it's like it's almost like it's not lame to try, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make you lame for like trying to like something or trying to find the good in something or trying to accomplish something, you know what I mean? It's like, it's an easy way out just to like hate or just it's like lazy, you know?
Exactly.
It's really lazy.
It's the first thing that pops up. It's the first impulse. It's lazy, like you say. And I feel that's something that is really powerful about that Rasta approach, because it begins with a refusal to participate. You know, like there's this whole system of tearing each other down and putting myself on top by pushing you lower. And I could, and I absolutely can, and no one will give me a hard time about it because it's what we all do. It is normal to do so, but I refuse.
But yeah, that stuff exists all over the place. Yeah. And it is easy to kind of kick stuff around, and it happens a lot. One of the craziest parts that it happens on the weather report. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this.
You mean
you're watching
when the meteorologist is giving the weather?
No, when the meteorologist gives the weather, and then they have to do and now we have a band who's come here. They woke up early and they came in here and they're going to play for us live now. What kind of music are you guys going to play? Reggae music? Okay, cool. What's that?
Yeah.
Sounds stupid. So you got somebody that just skanks? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of like
condescending,
ignorant, thing.
Yeah. It's lazy. It's like, I don't know, and I don't care to know, and I'm not going to pretend like anybody watching will care to know either, because they watch me, and they're what I'm about, which is not caring about things and not trying.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm way off base with this on like what Marley was probably intending, but for me, it's like the title Exodus and the way the album is like bifurcated. It's like the first half feels very much like a setup for like why we have to make an Exodus, right? As like a group of people, or like presenting why the idea of an Exodus is necessary. And then the second half feels like almost like we've arrived. Like the second half is like so much more focused on like fucking and lovemaking and
having
like
sex
and like children and
ladies.
And just like the beauty of life. Whereas like the first half is very like it is like pointing fingers, and it is like identifying like the causes of like why everything is so fucked up. And why we need to leave, right? And the second half is almost like the arrival. You know what I mean? I doubt that's literally what Marley was doing, but like every time I listen to it, that is like kind of the feeling I get. That is kind of my takeaway. Like when I listen to it, is like it is, the whole thing is almost like an exodus, or it's like the experience of an exodus. Granted that it ends well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, when you're talking about the album itself, that's one of the prominent things about it, the kind of the features about it, is that, yeah, it has two hemispheres.
It does, yeah.
The first is, is religious, it's prophetic, it's, natural mystic, singing about Armageddon.
It's much, darker.
Guiltiness, the Heathen, Exodus itself, even so much things to say, but it's very similar to Guiltiness, but like all of these, all these leaders, these charismatic leaders in the world, have given me no track record to believe anything that they say.
Yeah.
Like all that they have done is demonstrated backstabbing and betrayal, and like there's no reason to trust what any charismatic leader has to say at all.
And have literally tried to kill me personally.
Yes, tried to kill who? Me.
Yeah, me.
And by the way, all of the songs on that first half except for one are in a minor key.
Oh. Was it? Is it the last one? Is it not?
It's so much things to say.
So much things to say. That's right.
It is in a major key. All the rest are in a minor key. Yeah. Then flip to the other side. Now you've got these are the cocktail in a pineapple with a little umbrella in it vibe that Bob Marley is more associated with in America anyway. You got Jammin', you got Three Little Birds, you got One Love, you got Waiting in Vain. I think it's totally different energy here.
On a surface level, I agree with you, but for me, they hit way harder than that. They hit on like such like a beautiful like human level.
The actual thing itself is trust me. I don't mean to maybe the way that I could be better in how I say that. I'm not saying that they are that.
Sure.
Just saying these are a lot of the songs that people who have a certain surface level relationship with Bob Marley's music, these are the songs in particular that are the ones that they have that connection with Three Little Birds and One Love and stuff like that, you know.
I remember I was walking around the park, walking my dog, and it was a really beautiful day out. It was like spring day. It was like late sunset. It was like almost 8 o'clock. It was like first time of the year where people could stay out kind of late, and it was still, you know, nice out or whatever. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. There's like families everywhere, dogs playing, people playing soccer, people playing volleyball. This beautiful open park, like the cherry blossom. It was just like gorgeous day, right? Gorgeous evening. And I'm listening to like the second half of this record. I'm listening as corny as it sounds, I'm listening to like Three Little Birds, you know? And like the thought occurred to me, it was just like every person on planet Earth would benefit so greatly from seeing the world through the prism of this music.
Yes.
Like it absolutely enhanced my experience throughout that day, throughout that like hour I was there, in a way that it would not have been had I just been there, you know, just wandering around, like scrolling on my phone or something.
Yeah.
And that's like the true power of this music is like, it's like, yes, on one half you have this unmistakable, like just litany of charges you could levy against the world and the way the world works. But on the other side of it is this just absolutely just like Garden of Eden-esque, like just gorgeous way to interpret the world.
That's why it's a sermon, right?
Yeah.
That's what Exodus is. It's a sermon. It's like, here's what we went through.
Yes.
And here's what we're going through. And here's what we're going to continue going through. But that is, you know, there's this other side, the hopefulness. It's sort of a dread and hopefulness sandwich, you know, that you can, if you continue, you know, because the idea is like you listen to it again, and then you get and then that's this sort of binary that happens.
Yeah, the yin and yang.
Right. When you press play at the beginning again, you're in dread land again.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it like that, Nate, but I see what you mean now when you say it, that second half is like the arrival in paradise.
It is.
You know, like you're in paradise now.
Yes.
And you know, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times that the lyric in Three Little Birds, you know, don't worry about a thing, every little thing is going to be all right. Like how many times in my life that line has like brought tears.
Yeah, totally.
To my eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it carries with it the acknowledgement that, and it like brings about the awareness that like, oh my gosh, like I'm spending all day in a perspective that everything is not going to be all right.
Totally.
Like that's how I feel all the time.
It's like a relief. It's such a relief.
And right. And when you can turn around and see yourself in that, it sort of like alleviates it. And it's what's so powerful about people who have you know, and a lot of people do have the kind of a religious conviction that Bob Marley did, which is they're people who are dead certain, and they're both feet in the ground. They know we are going to paradise. Like we will. Yeah, that's where we're headed. We're getting there.
Right.
There's no question.
I'm like envious of that, you know, and I think that's why, like, even for someone like me who is like a super cynical asshole, when I hear this, it's genuinely moving to me. Like, because
we're so used to existing in a place where there is no escape, and we're not getting out of it. The crap is going to continue
right
until the end of time. It's sort of like, you know, the perspective that a lot of people live in. And
the other thing on this one is the songwriting, the part of, so the first time you listen to that song, you're like, oh, cool, everything's going to be all right. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it again, and you get that initial thing that we're talking about, right? This hopefulness. And then you listen to it again, and you're like, every little thing is going to be all right.
Yes.
Right. Not just
Totally
the big
different.
things, not just the big topics.
Yes.
Yeah. And that the little things,
Wow.
right?
Yep.
Are going to be okay. The super oppressed people are going to be all right.
Yeah, man. And those those super oppressed people, like there are some really, really, I feel that one of the greatest lyric writers about from the perspective of the oppressed people from Jamaica was Lee Scratch Perry.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he would write lyrics from the perspective of a poor person, of an oppressed person and a suffering person was so unique and painted such a picture. And there's a lyric in the song Sufferer's Time. He says, "The joy of life is comfort, children, like, and I no get I own yet." So, which sort of goes against the expectation that you would think, oh no, all you really need is like love and togetherness and your health and that your family is together. You know, who needs these possessions? But you look at that from the perspective of someone who lives with their family in a single room where the floor is mud and the walls and the roof are tin or metal sheets. And there's not enough food for your children to eat more than once a day. And no, maybe it is the little things. Maybe those actually are, once those little things are taken care of, maybe that actually is sort of like a pathway into a happiness that is kept from them and that we get to enjoy and they don't.
Right.
You know, maybe that actually is important and matters. Every little thing, not just the big, large concerns of life, but like, you know, all the small bits of your life, if those actually were taken care of, maybe that's what paradise is like and what we're all striving for, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like ultimately, like, it's not a literal physical arrival to a different place. That is not what happened. That's not what they did. I guess Bob Marley literally did. He moved to the UK after. But I mean, like, your takeaway from this music, it doesn't have to be a literal exodus, but it's an exodus from like a state of mind, right? It's stop looking at the world, you know, in a way that is you're basically like imprisoning yourself.
Yeah, leave your perspective.
Yes.
All of the songs, just like on side A, all of the songs except for one are in a minor key. Same with side 2. All the songs except for Jammin' are in a major key.
So like,
you know.
I feel like that had to have been intentional because like that is what you're describing is almost like using song keys and, you know, major minor type songs. That is like literal yin and yang. It's like a minor side with a dot of
little dot.
Dot of major and a major side with a dot of minor in it.
I never thought
Like,
about that. Yeah.
It's
a dot.
Man, that is ultimately that is kind of why I wanted to pick this, was because I feel like sure, you could say Catch a Fire is a better album, better this, that, whatever. The album as a concept paired with like how good all the songs are and how great it sounds and how well it was recorded, it's just like, to me, even when I was like in high school, when I first started listening to this stuff, I just was like, oh, this is like clearly the best one. I didn't really know why I felt that way, but like,
it's certainly the best like crossover reggae experience, right? So if you've been playing the guitar, you know, like you when I'm imagining you experiencing this as a kid the first time, like you've been playing rock and roll,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it's like reggae, and it's got some cool guitar stuff in it,
Yeah.
you know? So that keeps you interested enough to maybe play it 2 or 3 more times, you know,
Mhm.
like, oh, and then like experience the rest of it, because there's a lot going on here
Totally.
on this record.
Totally.
Yes.
You got 2 brothers playing
Rhythm
drum and
section.
bass,
Yep.
and there's like this really interesting tension between the 2 of them.
Yes.
You got this rock star singing these amazing lyrics. You got some dread. You got some hope.
Mm.
You got the I3s. You know, the whole rest of the band is killer horns.
Yes.
Horns. And
Right.
and like you say, the intentionally introduced Junior Marvin on guitar to
Mhm.
bring that, you know, rock god guitar hero
Totally.
sound. The wee, 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 wee,
Yeah.
you know,
Which is smart
bringing that in.
after
Yeah.
Peter Tosh leaves, because like for my money, Peter Tosh is like one of the best guitar players ever. Like talk about a way to hook little like white rock and roll little white boy Nate in when I was
He's
a kid.
an underrated
Dude.
as a guitarist. Yes.
Peter Tosh, I
Yes.
thought was like the coolest motherfucker who ever picked up a guitar when I was a kid. And I don't even think I made the connection that it wasn't him when I was a kid. But you're so right. Junior Marvin on this just like absolutely like shreds. And it's like probably in every way just as good of a player as Tosh.
Yeah. And he gives like a new style of lead guitar playing into reggae that is much emulated and copied after this.
Yeah. Mhm.
Which just sitting in that pocket, giving all the responses to the vocal calls, you know, just playing a distorted guitar lick in the windows in between the rest of the band's moments that they're doing, you know, that like for all the way up to the modern day, that's a thing. That's one of the regular things in the tool bag of reggae. And I mean, did he single-handedly create that by being a non-reggae musician, being introduced here? Here's your new band. You're now a member of the Wailers. You
Right.
know?
One of the things that really struck me listening to it too for this was like I did a listen through where I just was like, okay, I'm going to pick an instrument and I'm just going to focus on it the whole time. And I like inevitably my ear, I didn't like decide beforehand what I was going to do, but my ear latched on to Family Man and the bass. You can literally hear his fingers. Like you hear, like it's like it is not like this like far away kind of like I don't know, overly compressed, like kind of detached bass sound. Like a lot of times bass can just sound and feel like bass. It's just like an element, right, in the music. Whereas like with him and his playing, even more, I would say even more so than like a lot of other reggae bass players or reggae albums I've listened to, it's like it's crazy how like perfect everything is on this album, like how meticulous it sounds. But when you really like dive in and like listen to each element on its own, like how human,
Yes.
like you can really hear like the human being like playing the bass.
Yes.
And it just happens to be that the way they achieved that is because like they were like the best like band on planet Earth to like play this music at that time.
And similar to like in our last episode, we were talking about the Strokes, and it was discussed how big of a factor in and how great they sounded is how often they rehearsed.
Yeah,
they just played together all the fucking time.
Yeah,
the Wailers were like that too, man.
Totally.
Because especially with Family Man, the bass player, and his brother, the drummer,
Carlton,
they'd been, even before playing in this band together, they'd been session players together for like a decade before that, you know?
Yeah, check out like, the Hippie Boys.
The Hippie Boys, exactly, man. And all their work with Lee Perry. And
it's like whatever the rhythm section equivalent is to like, it's called like blood harmony. it's like brothers who sing together, like or like relatives that sing together, like
the Everly Brothers,
the Everly Brothers, the Louvin Brothers, the Beach Boys. Like it's like this like otherworldly like synchronicity that they're able to achieve, and I guess you could either attribute it to the fact that they're related, or just that because they're related, they spent so much time together.
I think right, exactly. I think it just comes down to that was just the way by which they ended up spending that much time practicing together, and from such an early age, you know.
I do kind of ascribe that there is like a little bit of an X factor, though, that I don't even know if I could identify what it is, but it is like the fact that they are brothers. It's not just that, it's almost like a nature nurture thing, I guess, but it's like it's not just the fact that they spend a bunch of time together. It's like there is something about the fact that they were brothers. It's like they maybe would like approach something the same way, right? Like even though they're on different instruments, like you know, I don't know. They would maybe approach playing a certain way the same way. Like, I don't know.
Kind of like the Bavona twins too. If you think about it, another like,
I don't know them.
You know, the Interrupters.
Yep, great LA reggae musicians. The Bavonas, one of which used to play in Penny Reel.
That's right.
Rad.
Playing our band, back in the day. You'd asked, do we think that there's another? Is there another album that like is a better one or something like that?
Oh yeah. Like my thesis for picking this for this episode was, this is the very best way in to reggae. If it's the best way into Bob Marley, it's the best way into reggae. Is basically was my kind of thesis. I don't know. I don't like have like 1,000% conviction on that. For me, I think the other obvious one would be Catch a Fire, but maybe it's not even Bob Marley. You know, like at a certain time, I fell in love with the Harder They Come soundtrack, and that was a great way into reggae because it gave me 20 different artists to choose from, or however many people were on that soundtrack.
I like this one because it tells the story of reggae being an exodus from Jamaica. And it tells a story of a man on the forefront of this sort of, it is a sermon. It's sort of a meta thing in itself. It's a sermon of everything that he's done, right? It's the whole balanced approach. And then it's also how reggae gets out to do the mission that it's supposed to make. And the message is very clear what the whole thing is. It's a very clear thing that's also couched in this subversive thing where it's like you can dance to it too.
Right.
You know, and you don't necessarily get it the first time.
And you're right, it does sit precisely on this like insane inflection point, right? Where like not only did he just get shot, not only is it arguably the best music he ever made, not only is it all these things, but it also, like you said, it has this meta context to it that is like the exodus is like the literal exodus of reggae, like proliferating out into the world, which is like ultimately what he was trying to accomplish the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a mistake that this album is the main contributor of tracks to Legend.
It's like 6 of them, right?
At least on the original version, 5. So
5?
which is half of the songs on the entire thing. They in the newer version of Legend, they might have Natural Mystic on there too, possibly, which would make it 6. I don't know, but so Legend is that is the biggest reggae album in the world.
You're right. You're right. Okay, that is the actual answer to the question I posed. What is the best way in? Which is Legend is the real best way.
But Legend is so prolific to the point where whether it's the best or not, it is the way that
That's
most
true.
people get into reggae.
That's
is
true.
legend.
That's
right.
true.
Like it's the de facto.
Yes.
It's the de jure practically. Right. So worldwide sales. Legend is the 21st most selling album in human history.
Wow.
That sounds about right.
So, ever since
Actually, that sounds low, if I'm being totally honest.
right, yeah, exactly. I would guess that it would be in the top 5.
Top 10 at least, yeah.
So, and I think it used to be.
I'm sure it was, yeah.
But that is, it's a the compilation album that's really the thing that is sitting there on everyone's parents' shelves that we put on and listen to and discover Bob Marley and discover reggae. That's the one where every single song is a household name. Every person in every country knows these songs. It doesn't matter who you are. Do you know Is This Love? No Woman, No Cry. Could You Be Loved? Three Little Birds. Buffalo Soldier. Get Up, Stand Up. These are like songs that are as big as like Let It Be.
Yeah, it's true.
And Hey Jude and shit. You know what I mean?
Those are the only kind of songs I'd compare them to, honestly.
Yeah.
I also feel like those lists, those lists of things like that, like it's this number, they're always skewed.
Yeah.
Like it's way higher than that.
It's got to be, right?
You think it's higher?
It's way higher.
It's got to be.
It's just, and they're not, at that point, like, how do you even keep track of that stuff? You're just making the list up.
Yeah.
Like,
plus it doesn't take into account like how many times people have like bought and sold it and like rebought it, like used or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have any of that in there,
Right. Yeah, right. Because the number that you're really ultimately looking for is like how many copies of it are there sitting out there in people's homes and cars that are, just laying there available for someone to pick up and hear and get exposed to. And so, but anyway, it's that prominent that it's up to be able to be listed amongst those albums, like Thriller.
Sure.
It's on the level of Thriller.
Yeah.
So,
but for the purposes of this, I don't really like the idea of doing like greatest hits albums on for this show
on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like if you had to pick an album,
well, the reason why I bring that up is all of his other albums have one or two of the songs on Legend. Exodus has 5.
Right.
Half of the album is on there. Half of the album are his most famous, his most and I think that the track listing of that compilation album is really, really good because someone did a very dutiful and true job of like choosing the most representative music and highest quality and most representative of his work and of his message and everything. And so it's fitting like damn, there's just a shitload of them on this record. And you brought up Catch a Fire, which was his first album with Chris Blackwell. And that one is so incredible, but that was one of the ones that had overdubs of foreign musicians laid on after the fact, after the Wailers played on it. Yeah, like the first one or two or however many of the albums that he did with Chris Blackwell, the band would record their stuff and then he would overdub like American and English musicians playing more tracks on top, the keyboard and guitar tracks, to I think successfully make it more palatable to the non-Jamaican ear. And it worked. But Exodus has none of that. Exodus is now to the point where they themselves have developed the way that they play that is universal now. And it does have an international appeal without anyone else augmenting it.
There's something about the Wailers that like I can't put my finger on that is like it is inherently reggae music. It is like unmistakably reggae music, but it is also weirdly unlike a lot of more like traditional like Jamaican like reggae artists or bands. They're less prominent. I mean, I think what you're kind of almost pointing out is like, is that thing I can't put my finger on, is it literally Chris Blackwell?
I think that Chris Blackwell is one of the ingredients of that phenomenon. But I think the biggest factor is that this band was sort of a unique experiment within the context of the rest of the reggae records that were being made, because they were one of the only, if not the only band that had stepped outside of the standard operating procedure of the Jamaican record industry, which is house bands in studios, guys who live at home and then go to the studio each day to work, play as session musicians for whichever singer or vocal group was in there that day to cut that record. And so that was the normal way, this configuration, whatever configuration of individuals, of engineer, drummer, bass player, piano player, guitar player, horn players, and singers that happened to be there that day.
But
right?
This was just Marley's guys.
Exactly. Right. This group had such resources and financial backing and everything, where they stepped outside of that. And all these players, by the way, came from that system, right, including Bob himself, including the Barrett brothers, and all the players in this band. They were the session players from that circuit. That they now are playing on their own, right? They're touring. They're not playing in those other sessions. They're not recording in those other sessions. They're getting this evolution of what a band would and could sound like if they only ever play with each other.
Right.
And they play together every day.
They're getting like an internal feedback loop that is like making them sound more like themselves.
They're getting this development that rock bands get, because that's how things work in rock and roll.
Right.
You're not a session player with anybody. You play with your band, and those are the only people that you ever play with. Right? So they then, over time, inadvertently, there's no escaping this way that their sound and their feel and how they play together and what they play, new ideas that would come to them that would never even occur to you, or that would make no sense to play in a session. You can play it here because this is the band.
Right.
This isn't, I'm not working a day's wage for this client producer who's got this singer who's in here, and I'm playing the sheet music that's in front of me for this session. No, this is the fucking band. This is Bob's song. We're exploring it. And it's only this group of songs too, that we only ever play. We don't have to play. When you're a session musician, it's a new song. It's a new group of songs every day, and then you never play those songs again in your life.
Right.
And then you come into the studio tomorrow, it's new songs that you've never played before, and you will never play again. But when you're playing in this band, it's the same group of songs. They evolve. It's the same musicians. It evolves, right? And so I think that is the biggest factor of how they ended up having a sound that is reggae, because they are the reggae players, but it evolved in a way that no other group of musicians had even an opportunity or a chance to, until later in the 70s. I think there are other groups like, Peter Tosh's band, like we were talking about, Santa and Fully Fullwood and these other people. And I don't even know who played in Toots' band, or if he just toured around just with the singers and it was just local musicians playing, or what. I don't know if he had a bit. But anyway, I think that phenomenon is the main thing that goes to explain why it sounds different than all the other records.
Well, maybe we should do let's do standout songs. So standout songs where we just kind of like talk about what are like songs that were like our very favorites or ones we didn't like. You can say you don't like stuff too if there's ones you think are crappy on this, which I doubt, but let's do I actually do
have one song that I don't really like.
Really? I'm shocked by that. All right,
seems so crazy to say.
Yeah, let's
a song on Exodus. Like, I don't really like that song.
Let's do top favorite or least favorite songs. What were yours, Brandon?
Oh, I'm going first. Okay.
Yeah, I'm too curious now. What, me and Brian are just going to be like, yeah, we liked all the songs.
Could be. All right. So my standout songs, I talked about Guiltiness. I think in these listen throughs, that is the song that stood out the most to me. Because, obviously Jammin' and Three Little Birds and Waiting in Vain and all those other things, like I've heard those. Every sound and every moment of those songs is like burned into my brain, memorized, right? And so these other album tracks were ones that I was hearing with new ears, and that song has like, oh my God, is this like my new favorite Bob Marley song? Holy crap.
I agree that it was the middle couple on the first side that probably struck me the most listening to it this time. I was like, damn.
Yeah. I found the Heathen would keep being the thing that is stuck in my head all day. The Heathen back there on the wall. Like that would just be going in my mind while I'm working or whatever. Waiting in Vain, yet again, always eternally, is just stands out to me as like probably the finest, one of the finest examples of a reggae rhythm section just ever. I literally
I've always loved that particular song because there's kind of like a certain dogmatic view in reggae songwriting that is like you only use like triads, basically, like only major or minor chords. Right. And this, I believe, has major 7 chords in it.
Exactly, that's right. Those major 7s, which is pretty rare. Yeah.
I always thought that was really cool.
it gives it such a unique and appropriate flavor.
Yeah.
For this kind of like, dedication love song. It's so good.
Yeah. The Annie Lennox cover of that song is deadly too.
Oh, I've never heard that. Oh man, I really like Annie Lennox quite a bit actually.
I got to check that out. In my first listen through, when you first picked this album, when that song came on, it's just like you hear the little drumsticks clicking the tempo, and then and right when the band hits, the organ bubble and all the things, right when the groove hits, I literally out of my mouth, I'm just like, Jesus Christ. God damn.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so fun. It's so fun to do an actual critical listen of those songs. The songs that you've heard a bajillion, million, billion times, right? But it's always like so passively, It's always just like, oh, they're just on again, like in the background of a restaurant or the radio or fucking whatever. But like
cruise ship.
Oh no. Yeah. But to actually like put on like nice headphones and turn it up loud and just like close your eyes and just listen to this stuff is like, dude, fuck. Like it's so good.
And Bob's performance, the lyrics, the vocal delivery, like that's a love song, man.
Yes, it is.
Holy shit.
It is.
Like David Byrne singing like this must be the place and shit, just like, okay.
Yeah.
Put away all other love songs. That's he didn't need to go that hard.
Yeah.
But he did,
I think it is.
It's one of those.
It is like the most like intentional and like human and like almost like too intimate of a song. It's like, wow. Like I feel like I'm in the bedroom. I'm gonna
he brings
myself.
The slackness in there for sure.
Yeah, dude. Yes. He does.
He has succeeded in seducing me.
And you know,
it's like collateral seduction, like spray damage. He's seducing. There's so much seduction that it's hitting unintended targets.
Yeah. It's making me want to make out with Bob Marley.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like, you know, he lived that life. You know it too, because he had what, like 30 kids or something. Like, so it's like he was fucking serious. It was like serious business.
Rasta spread him seed,
dude.
Yes, he did. It's 11 children by 7 women.
Oh, that's what it is. Oh, I'm thinking of Family Man, who had what, like actually like 30 or 40. Yeah, he was.
Yes, the one who could outdo Bob.
You know that he loved playing "Waiting in Vain." That was Family Man's favorite song. Or "Turn Your Lights Down Low," I guess.
Okay, those.
Oh yeah, there's one you don't like that much.
I would choose those two as standouts. And okay. I just don't like "Turn Your Lights Down Low," man.
Is it too? Does it make you uncomfortable?
R&B for you?
Too what for me?
Is it too R&B for you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not that it's too R&B. It's I feel that like as an R&B song, since it is an R&B song, it's not a reggae song.
No.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
In my opinion, as an R&B song, it's not a good R&B song.
Oh, dude, you suck. You're wrong about that, by the way.
What about covers of it? Can you handle a cover of it?
If it's good.
Like, can you handle the Lauryn Hill cover of it?
That's, you know what's crazy is that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a song that anticipated that like mid-90s like neo soul kind of shit.
It totally does. Yes. It sounds like a song from mid-90s neo soul.
It does. It does.
Totally does. And I don't know. I don't think my problem with it is with the performance of it or the particular take of it. It's just, I don't know. I would say more accurately, it's like I don't get it. Maybe it's just something about those chords and that melody. To me, it's a big old like, so what? Where is the hook? Where's the undeniable melodic flavor that like? And I can recognize like everybody else gets it. It's a thing where I feel like I'm the only guy who doesn't like The Godfather or whatever. I love The Godfather, but it makes me feel like that. Where it's like I don't see what you guys see. Like, this is such like an unremarkable piece of music to me.
Wow.
And especially when it comes right after Waiting in Vain.
Like,
musically, lyrically, just fucking unbelievable. And then this one is just like, here's a love song that anyone could have written. I don't know.
But also, it is a good example of the nursery rhymey kind of melody, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can go, it's sort of very playful as a nursery rhyme melody.
Yeah.
You know? But it is not memorable.
It's weird because it's one of his most famous songs, but I do agree with you guys. It is it's definitely my least favorite song on that side. When I look at the songs, I'm like, yeah, that is my least favorite one. And I will grant you that Waiting in Vain is the much stronger like love song. Like,
all the other songs on that side are on Legend. So
Waiting in Vain is like so sweet and like, it's like it makes you feel like it's about like kind of love, but like a yearning, like, whereas like Turn Your Lights Down Low is like literally about fucking, and it's kind of a little just like, all right.
Yeah, there's no tension, right?
Get a room.
Because Waiting in Vain has that narrative like rub of desire but distance, you know, yearning but she's not with me and all that, you know. So like it has that interest and that tension. And Turn Your Lights Down Low has none. It's just get ready to fuck. Here we go.
Yeah. I'm like very reluctantly agreeing with you on this. I'm like letting you say this stuff, but
my last point on it is also in comparison to all of Bob's other non-reggae songs, which are so fucking legendary. You got like Redemption Song and fucking No Woman No Cry, you know, like all these other like crossover songs of him, pretty intentionally, like, okay, let me have a song that isn't just fucking full on reggae to appeal to the masses or whatever. They're all just genius, amazing, memorable, and I don't know. It just seems very plain and unimaginative in comparison to me. It's kind of disappointing. That's all.
All right, we've given Brandon enough rope to hang himself. Brian,
Yes.
what were your favorite songs?
I mean, I like them all. I do agree with Brandon that is one of the weaker songs.
I do agree with you guys, but isn't that insane? Because it's like one of his like probably top 5 famous songs. Maybe not 5, but like it is such a famous song. It's crazy.
I think the covers of that song also are more
better.
interesting than the originals.
Yeah.
People also like watching The Bachelorette and Keeping Up with the Kardashians too.
Dog. Oh my God. It was like
those are popular.
Way too harsh of a take, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, it's Brian's turn.
But
Sorry.
but it's these we're talking about we're not saying like I hate that song. It's just it's just in comparison, you got some great material here, and it is one of the great songs, but in comparison, it is whatever.
It is
comparison.
It is
that's the important part.
I will
comparison.
acknowledge it's my least favorite of his like mega super famous songs. It is like the one I'm like, okay, like I do skip it. I hate to admit it, but it's coming. It's a little too far off the edge, right? I think musically and like lyrically, like it's like lyrically, it's so intimate it becomes almost uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is a little misogynistic too.
It is a little misogynistic,
not
too.
even a little. It's a lot.
It's a lot. You're right.
Oh, is it?
You're right.
But that's also a cool thing to point out is that it is that's part of the deal, man. That's part of Rasta.
That was the Rasta thing. Yeah, it's like stuff like you'll never say no and shit like that, or something.
Don't resist.
Don't resist.
Never try to resist.
Never try to resist. Never say no. Like it's like
okay. All right.
Yeah. It's like, Bob, I don't think you need to try that hard. You are Bob Marley after all. You're not ugly, and you're not one of the most cool, famous people who's ever lived. Rich, yeah.
Yeah. Favorites. I think favorites for me in this particular situation isn't really about the song. It's about the experiences that I've had with the songs. Like favorite. I remember the first time I learned jamming. Was I was playing in a steel drum band. I was playing bass steel drums, which is basically...
Of course you were.
Yeah. It was 6 55-gallon barrels with 3 notes. Well, a couple times there's 4 notes in there, but generally 3 notes in each pan to create an octave. And we learned jamming. It was one of the first, and it was just sort of like, I remember that time because it was like, I'm learning this new instrument and I'm learning this cool music at the same time. And like the band sounds really good. And I'm sort of like, keeping up with the bass line. And it's a great bass line. And then being able to share that with an audience, like I learned this thing and now I'm doing this, and then everyone's into it. It's like, that was a cool thing.
It's probably the most like fun song.
It's a really fun song.
It's so fun. Like even more than 3 Little Birds, I think. It's like even more fun than that one. Maybe that one's as fun or more, but like jamming is like a highlight of the whole experience.
It's a really good example of sometimes some music educators will try to make the point that minor key doesn't always mean sad, major key doesn't always mean happy.
Right?
It's more nuanced than that, and there are examples, and I think jamming is a quintessential example of a happy,
minor
exuberant,
key song.
uplifting song that's in a minor key.
And also, it's funny. Like, what is it about
Yeah.
It could be about so many different things.
That's true.
Patois wise, it's the smoke circle. We're jamming. We're smoking.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about our feelings while we're smoking. We're talking about politics. We're talking about our situation.
Right.
Reasoning.
We're jamming. We're gonna jam this.
We're
Jam
yapping.
these topics. Right?
We're yapping right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like the intellectual stoner circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Those are
Right.
always fun.
They also call that reasoning.
Reasoning as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Could it be also talking about playing music together, jamming? A lot of people think it's about sex, but I definitely
No.
think that's just fourth grade humor.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get sex vibes from that one, especially on an album with such clear instances of sex vibes.
Yeah, that's definitely not.
That's
Yeah.
definitely not one. Yeah.
At least in America, also, I think jamming, just as a term and also as the song, can be understood to mean as another way of saying what people call rocking out, meaning dancing and moving to music and grooving to music and enjoying music together. Like
we're in the moment.
Let's rock out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're
Right.
and almost literally just dancing.
Yeah.
You know, vibing to music together.
Or like obviously the really famous like kind of colloquial way of understanding that term is like playing music together. But like the thing, all these things we're saying it might mean have in common is they're all like communal things, and I think that's really what it's about. It's like our community.
I want to jam it with you.
Yeah, like our community is together, right? And it's like coming off the heels of Exodus, the song, and it's, if our theory holds true, that side B is like the arrival of like, we've arrived after our exodus into, a new place or whatever. It kind of makes sense that if that's the arrival, it's like this song about community and doing something communal. If I had to pick some favorites, honestly, the one that really stuck out to me this listen through was So Much Things to Say.
Nice.
Which
Good choice.
I think mainly because listening to this album in 2025, it's like, I think that song gives you like a really palpable and probably understandable sense of like how overwhelming like life is and the world is and can be. And I'm sure as that was probably so true when this album came out, but it's just like, it really hit me this time, like listening to it was just like, there's so much, like it's overwhelming, like how many problems there are and how many things that, we all have to like keep track of and care of. And like, we're stewards for so many aspects of the world. We're stewards for the world, and we're like, dropping the ball in a lot of ways, I would think, or and it's just like, it's just like one of those things that it really resonated with me. Just that sense of like, just how overwhelming like life is. Yeah.
That's a really good pick, man. And it's deep too, like similarly in the way that I was talking about guiltiness. It's like this this notion that the laws of the government are only the laws of the government, and those are imperfect, and like how widespread that situation is of someone being in charge, someone having authority and having a jail and having a gun and a baton who can physically detain you and affect your life and do what they want with you. Like how the damage that people can do with that and that they do, and I mean, even for us, it's just like the height of that worry in my lifetime of the concern of watching somebody in power, like ruin the situation and bring danger to common people. But man, when you consider like how many people have had to witness that and have actually experienced that happen to such a more intense degree than we have seen so far, and all over the world, and how many countries in Africa, in Jamaica during this time, and Iran and Iraq and Syria and Germany, Central America, just leaders, governments just really betraying their people, and things going from a state of being safe to being very dangerous. And like he says, they have so much things to say. What do? They talk, they talk, they talk, they talk, and they talk. And what can you expect to see from them? You can expect to see them saying shit, talking, making promises. They're gonna do it. And he's saying, like, it doesn't mean what they are saying. Just because they're saying it does not necessarily mean that you need to believe it. He's not saying what they say equals a lie 100% of the time. He's not saying that. He's just saying, that they cheapen the quality of their word. So be on the lookout for that. You can't just take any promise that they make.
Yeah. I would say that one, that was the first one that came to mind. Also, Natural Mystic, I just think is one of the coolest recordings ever. It's just like a really spooky, in like the coolest way. Like the way he's able to translate his lyrics directly into like the pitch perfect musical vibe to fit those lyrics is like honestly remarkable, because like you can just go through the track list and they almost, as like cohesive as like each side is and like the whole album is, he articulates like very specific different feelings on each one of these songs.
Yeah, very diverse
and like
meanings and messages. Yeah,
he's really good at that. Like it's like amazing how talented he was at being able to like translate a vibe into music. And it's like perfect.
Like a versatile actor or something.
Yeah. And
you could also tell that it was kind of easy.
Yeah.
There's like an effortlessness to it.
Big time. I think that's what makes it so good, is it's like not, it wasn't hard for him. He's just like, oh, you like what I want to convey is like this exact specific feeling. Oh, here, I know how to do it. Like it feels like pinpoint accurate, like the way he's able to do it.
Yeah,
like,
no compromises either.
No.
Yeah,
and like, it's not like impressionistic. It's not like I think it could be this or that. It's like, no, dude, he's like fucking nailing it. It's a it's like a bullseye. Like it's crazy.
I think we talked about all the important stuff in reggae, and there's more to be revealed. For sure.
Yeah, we've only scratched the surface here.
Honestly, Brian, we're doing 6 of these. We should totally just have you on for another one later in the summer. It'd be fun. Yeah.
We've talked about like 10% of the topics that we need to cover in this whole run.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking, just structurally as a listener too, is like, I've been enjoying these podcasts riding my bicycle.
Nice.
And I can see you guys on my phone because I have a thing on the handlebars.
Mm-hmm.
So I occasionally glance over to see, like if there's something visual or something. But I think it's important to listen to the record first and then listen to the podcast. I found that's really cool, especially with the stuff that I'm unfamiliar with or I haven't listened to in a long time.
Yes.
I
agree. I hope people do that. Who knows? I don't know.
I think listening to it, I've tried it both ways. I've listened and then I listen to the record.
Mm.
That's also cool, but I think I think it's actually better to preload it.
I think so too. I think so too. We're like speaking about this stuff with the presumption that you at least are familiar with it. Like
exactly. Right. Like, I'm assuming that when I refer to a verse of a song that you've heard, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And the other thing I think we should point out too is that yes, we're saying this is an intro to reggae.
Yeah.
But it's actually a step above the intro. Like this was an unusual for the time as far as history goes, which kind of doesn't matter at this point. But for the time, this was a unique record in the sort of genre. We sort of talked about that, but I think that's an important point to make too, because of what happens. What I find is a lot of people, I'll show Bob Marley first, and then they get disappointed with the rest of reggae because they're like, well, it's like folk music. What, it's not like this like big thing that happens,
It's not like this big production, this like super expensive album.
Yeah. And then that eventually leads them down the sort of pop path, and they just end up listening to rock and roll again.
Right. Yeah.
Where so it's, and you're listening, like, check this out. If you're into it, then like kind of let's go back into the genre. And I think that's what this summer is going to be about anyway. So
you're right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're hoping is like start from like maybe a place where you've already started or a place that you're familiar with. Even though granted, I think you're right. This is kind of like a step above like kind of maybe your most basic like intro to reggae. But it is kind of just like an easy, maybe not an easy in, but it is a common intro, right?
I'll tell a quick story. I was on tour with Long Beach Dub All-Stars last summer with a band called Aurora Wave, which is basically they're reggae musicians, but they're playing like super heavy, like not metal, but like just like drops. Like they will seriously metal out. That they have chops. They have like the whole like new metal,
kind of like Revelation or Revolution. Which one is it?
It's like, but it's like even more severe than that. Like these guys like super rock out. Right?
That's Nate Aurora's band, right?
Yeah, Nate Aurora's band. So it's us. Like Long Beach Dub All Stars is sort of the Cali thing, and but we're actually playing reggae. We're actually doing it. But then we have the other things we have to play for the fans.
Right.
Then you have Aurora Wave, and then the headliner was The Movement, which is sort of like even farther removed. Like it's like Exodus, way farther removed into just almost just completely modern take on things, like super abstracted. So it was this weird kind of postmodern thing that happened where it's like, here's the result of something else into the result of something else into the result of even more meta, fractalism of putting, taking pieces of things and putting them together. And that's kind of, where we're at now, because it's been so long since the beginning of reggae.
Right.
And that, but again, fundamentally, we were all on that tour still playing reggae.
Yeah.
It was, the pieces were all there, and the pieces were strong.
And I'm sure for you too, because you're on these tours and you interact with so many of these bands where it's like you can see this music like refracted. Yeah, well, the message of Bob's initial message is still there. Yeah. The message of the groove, the message of the religious part, the message of the anti-fascist, let's all do this together. We're all resisting. We're trying to resist Babylon.
It's the refusal to participate.
Refusal to participate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're doing it musically, and we're doing it culturally. And then we're also doing it so when the new people come in, right, which is hopefully some of the people that are listening to this podcast, like you are welcome here to try this experiment with us.
Right.
And that is the most important thing to me, and the other thing that was super weird on this tour, which is maybe just something that I'd never experienced, but I had multiple people come up to me and say, this is the first concert I've ever been to. The first concert I have ever been to. And it was, and this was like full production. They had a video wall. It was really like a religious experience for a lot of people.
So then that must mean that they've never experienced music being played that loud.
That loud.
Ever.
That bright.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that was the Movement's fans.
It's so cool.
Those were not fans of Long Beach Dub All-Stars or Aurora Wave. Those were the Movement fans because they are being marketed in a very different way.
I just want to say thank you to Brian for coming on the show.
Yay.
Fans of ours, you might... Whoa.
A freaking thumbs up bubble just popped up out of nowhere.
Okay.
Well, you guys do it and it'll pop up.
Let's go. Oh, wait,
maybe
it's
just
only doing
on
it to
me.
you.
Oh,
How come only you're doing it?
Maybe it's like a setting that you have to turn on. Or something.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well,
I think it does this too.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, do the heart.
Oh my God!
It makes hearts appear.
It's so typical that Brian has like the magic touch for this shit. We have no idea how to make it work, but Brian does.
Yeah.
I should also say, like, everything here is new. So I don't really know how things work. I have a new computer. I have and thanks to Black Market for hooking me up with this new studio here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. If you can see if you can see on the YouTube on the video where Brian is sitting, the members of the Black Market Dub community, when we raised, Brian is the one who we raised the money for when the fire reached his house, and look at you go.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've created the Tranquility Base. What you're seeing is my new studio, which actually is what I feel is the inside of a bell pepper. That's how I designed it. So if you ever take a bell pepper and cut it in half and put it like headphones,
I've never done that. That's what
this place says. Yeah, that's the design concept.
Yeah.
So I try to make it as best I could.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's I feel like I'm doing some really great work here. So thank you all, not just Nate and Brandon, but everybody who's listening. And John Roy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, like, on behalf of everybody in our fan base and our community, like, it was not an option to not help you out, to not see you get back on your feet, man. Like, I'm so proud of all the fans who donated and helped and who bought Christmas records.
Yeah.
Even in just a small way, you raised so much money, and I think we accounted for I don't know, what was it, like $3 or $4 grand or something like that, or $5? I don't even remember now. But even just to be like a small part of helping you get back on your feet and seeing in your studio now, it's like so rad. Like, it looks great, by the way. If you're not watching the video, you should watch.
So I'm calling this the Tranquility Base.
Sick.
Because it's the first place they landed on the moon,
right?
Tranquility.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Okay.
But
that's right.
It's also a place that I've built like intentionally for me to get going again, to kind of reinvent. I feel like there's like the Brian before and now the Brian after.
Absolutely.
And it needed to be just a sort of place that I could just come and work.
Yeah.
He's a brand new Brian.
He's a brand new Brian. That's right.
Taking over the world. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Chris Murray was the first artist in here.
That's so
really
rad.
was he? Oh.
Yeah.
You guys
came
tracked
in
like
a Chris Murray song, Brand New Brian.
That's
you
right.
Guys tracked like a whole record, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, 14 songs.
That's fucking
I gotta hear that.
sick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
God,
really great.
I'm slacking. I haven't made a new record in a year.
Yeah, Murray just walked in. He's like, I got these new songs, man. You ready?
That's awesome.
Like, yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
On the second or third or fourth annual Reggae Summer, we will do a Chris Murray record.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, must do Chris Murray record.
One of these years, one of these annuals of the Reggae Summer, we should do one that focuses on California specifically.
For sure, absolutely.
That'd be dope.
Yeah. Yeah, and eventually we'll finally get Brian on for our 40 ounce to freedom conversation. Someday we will
Our long
finally
lost
do that one.
episode.
I have
40
two.
Ounces to Freedom.
I have 2 records in my possession.
Oh,
Okay, what do you got?
nice.
This one
Buckle up, Chris Murray combo. Hell yeah.
Uh-huh.
and this one.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's
Nice.
go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of, I've got some stuff for you for the follow up to that one. I need a sax solo on one song and then your lead on another one, and then I think we're gonna have you master it for vinyl as well.
Oh, perfect.
So I don't know. Kind of a lot to do there. There's stuff about it that I'm so excited. I don't want to spoil it for the podcast yet, so I'm not going to.
Okay,
say.
well,
The
So,
next
yeah.
but-
Black Market
Yeah.
Dub
Yes.
album in the works.
Yes,
Y'all.
yes, and Brian's gonna be a fixture, but yeah, maybe we'll spoil it. Maybe we'll spoil it over on the Patreon zone. I can see Brian is in the Patreon zone right now. He's got his Patreon goggles on. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we are also a band, Black Market Dub. All the music featured in these episodes is by Brandon and I and Brian. Let's be real, Brian's on like 90% of it.
Yeah.
You can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/blackmarketdub. All of our music's also on Bandcamp. You can buy vinyl, all kinds of shit.
Blackmarketdub.bandcamp.com.
Thank you.
welcome.
And yeah, what a fun episode. And we're kicking off Reggae Summer. And Brian, I think you'll be back. I think
Yes, I'd love to.
I think what we'll do is we'll send you the list of all the rest of the records we're doing, and we'll let you pick whichever one you really feel like doing.
Yeah.
Your
And you know what?
favorite
We should get like Santa on here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
you
can
know.
we?
Yeah.
Should find some of the original sources.
That would
and
be
stuff,
so
'cause
sick.
We got some questions for these guys.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we're going to go to, Brandon and I at least are going to go to a scientist show at the Lodge
Yes.
Room in Highland Park. I'm really stoked for that. I've never seen Scientist perform before, and he is, if I'm being honest, he's my favorite dub artist of all time. I like him. I enjoy his music more than Tubby, more than Lee Perry, more than all of them. Like he's like at the tippy top for me. Absolutely, like probably the biggest single inspiration for Black Market Dub there is Scientist. So like I am like beyond pumped to finally go see him perform. Yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up this summer. It's gonna be good stuff.
super cool.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I agree. We gotta get some of the guys that are left that are still doing it. I think it would be amazing to get them on this show this summer for some of these records.
You know, at Supernova this year, they're reuniting the cast of Rockers,
Dude.
So
and they're gonna
sick.
play live.
Shut up.
Yep.
Whoa. Dang. Where's Supernova at?
It's in Virginia.
Oh fuck.
All right,
Okay.
we're gonna have to go there, Nate.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Shit. Patreon.com/BlackMarketDub.
So we can go
Yeah.
do research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, do you have any closing words for us?
I do. Just after saying again, thank you for being here, Brian.
Yeah.
Love you very much. And to everyone, we love you. You're the best and greatest in the world. And remember, it's he who fight and run away, live to fight another day. Goodbye.